Welcome to Channel 24, and I just want to introduce to everybody that for me now joining Dr. Darin Gerdes. He's the chair of leadership program, and lots of you know him as an author of the YouTube channel Professor Gerdes Explains, the channel that I love so much. So, Mr. Gerdes, it's a pleasure to have you here in our studio of Channel 24.
Glad to be here.
So I know that everybody's talking about Alaska meeting, so we cannot avoid that as well. And it seems like, from my perspective, everything went wrong from the moment when we realized that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy was not invited. And there was a pro-Ukrainian protest just hours before everything began. And I was listening to the protesters, what they were saying. And a lot of people were also very unhappy that everything is happening about Ukraine, but without Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Actually, quite opposite to the narrative what Joe Biden was saying. So from your perspective, is that approach could lead to anything positive for Ukraine?
So I think there's a danger of something going badly for Ukraine. I don't think it's likely, but it's possible. I think what's going to happen is something meh. I mean, just kind of nothing really happening. So what I mean by that is this. You were talking about where it started. Where it started was roll back the clock a week and a half ago. We're talking about sanctions in 10 days. Remember that? Right. Yeah. What happened to that? Okay. And then Witkoff went and met with Putin and everything got derailed. And then he came back talking about territorial concessions. That was alarming. Right? Oh, well, Putin might, if you get out of Donetsk and Luhansk, then, we'll have an orderly removal from the other two, from Kherson and Zaporizhia, right? But it looked like he bungled that, and Putin actually might have meant that Ukraine can orderly remove from there. It just looks like it was miscommunicated, and I think Putin. The upside is Putin may try to overplay his hand. The most likely scenario is nothing happens. The danger is that they would talk about territorial concessions, but they started talking about it, and then it started going away, and the U.S. president started lowering expectations. If you watch American news, you can tell when they're saying something's going to happen or when they're lowering expectations. I just want to hear him. We're just there to talk. There's really going to be no deal without Zelenskyy. He's been saying more and more like that in the last couple of days, but in the first few days, it was very dangerous. It was like talking about territorial. Yeah, we're going to swap this for this. And yeah, so I'm not as alarmed as I was when it first broke, but I was alarmed when it first broke.
Yeah, and just to make clear, because when we talk about territorial concessions, we're talking about Ukrainian territories to Ukrainian territories. So
yeah, we're not talking about trading for Krasnodar Krai, right? Or Bryansk, right?
Yeah, right. And, lots of experts, Western experts, Ukrainian analysts saying, so after this phase of peace negotiations, let's say it, right, in Alaska, Ukraine is going into the very, very uncertain and quite dangerous part of Russian war. Do you see that in that way?
Are you talking about militarily or politically?
Politically.
Yeah, politically, I think what happened was that Witkoff came back with that bungle. Like, Witkoff's just a terrible negotiator. I don't know why we have him as the guy there. Putin doesn't like Keith Kellogg. Send Keith Kellogg. Like, let Keith Kellogg be the guy for both of these things. If you really want to, make Putin uncomfortable, send Kellogg. At any rate, politically, I think what happened was Trump was kind of moving down this Witkoff-like path because he got kind of diverted from where he was going with the sanctions. And remember, Trump actually did sanction India up to 50%. And the rationale for that was because of buying Ukrainian oil. So it's not like he was doing nothing. He was going toward 100, and I wish he would continue going toward 100, right? But it wasn't nothing, but it wasn't everything he said it was going to be either. It got derailed. Okay. So then Zelenskyy was talking with European leaders, and the European leaders, I think, speaking as one to Trump about, like, you can't do this. You can't trade territory. Zelenskyy has to be in the room. You can't talk about the trade. So I think Trump eventually got the message. Trump is not like most politicians in the sense that, like, you knew Barack Obama was going this way. You knew George Bush was going that way. Like, you could predict, and it gives us a certain calmness to know how you can predict things. But Trump, he's persuaded this way and then that way and then this way again. It's kind of maddening to watch.
Russian team, the Russian delegation, and American delegation, who has more experience of negotiation?
Russia, easily, by a long shot. Russia. Now, who's in the room? Putin. Okay, so it's going to be a Trump and Putin meeting with interpreters in the room, but there's also this secondary delegation as well. And Russia brought the dream team. On the American side, you have Rubio, who is a pretty, like, deep in his bones, he's anti-communist and has always been because of his background with Cuba and that sort of thing. And so he knows what Putin is, and he understands. He's pretty stalwart. As much as he's tried to carry Trump's message, in his bones, I think he's pretty solid. Keith Kellogg is not here, but he is very solid. Witkoff is there. That's terrible. Lutnick, I don't like Lutnick. He's a Secretary of Commerce. I don't like him because he's like all about tariffs, but this could actually play out for Ukraine in a positive way. Like, okay, back before we got derailed with Witkoff, look, I was saying this, that I think we're going to actually do the tariffs on India because there's forces within the Republican Party that think that tariffs are a great idea and we want to do more tariffs. So that just happens to line up with selling Russian oil and being able to tariff them. So he might be okay with this, but really it's Rubio is the guy that you want to watch and see what kind of the best things are going to come from Rubio. Let's put it like that.
Yeah. And, I was thinking that how we end up, why on earth Ukrainians have to believe any Russian promises after 11 years of war in Ukraine? And why on earth we should believe something that's sad or will be sad in Alaska?
And so, you're hitting on something that's really important. The information war is just as powerful, maybe more powerful than other factors, right? I'm not going to say more powerful than the hot war on the ground, but it's like there's an information war and a cyber war and hybrid operations and the war on the ground, and one thing's layered on top of the other. But Trump would believe and say things like, we've spent $300 billion on. No, we didn't. But that's a standard Russian talking point. Or, if NATO hadn't started this, NATO didn't start it. So you've got to be careful with this and just recognize what's actually happening.
Yes. And do you think that Russian dictator already kind of has a diplomatic victory in Alaska, just being there with American president, with taking photo together, everything that everybody is talking about?
Absolutely. This is raising Putin's stature. Putin, so Angela Stent came to speak at my university, and she wrote a book on Putin, and she's absolutely right. Putin, it just feels like he's on the outside, and he's like of the international community, and meeting with Trump raises his stature in the world. He wants it to be more like what the old Soviet Union versus the West was, where he'd be leader of this great bloc, and that's why he's always talking about the BRICS in such an important way, as if they're important. In any, they're not a military alliance. They're not going to overthrow the dollar, but he keeps trying to do that sort of thing. So, Putin wins just by having his stature elevated, just by meeting.
What if Trump will decide to go to Moscow? What's then? That's
interesting. That's a really interesting thought. I hadn't even thought about that, but I can't say that he wouldn't. He wants to have a second meeting. He's already signaled that the whole point of this meeting is to get to a second meeting. So that's really what Trump hopes to get. Putin hopes to stall as much as possible. Sure, let's do another meeting a month from now. I mean, like that sort of thing, and just keep stalling and stalling because he keeps being told that he's winning on the battlefield because in an authoritarian system, the truth doesn't really always filter up to the top. That's why you thought you had a 3-day war. I mean, he was being sold a bag of goods, and yeah.
Well, so because, Russian propaganda already is saying and screaming that Putin has invited already American president to Moscow after Alaska. Well, and then we just had an information that American president have spoken to Alexander Lukashenko, the president, another dictator in this world. And he also agreed to go with the family to Minsk. I mean, what the heck? What's going on?
Yeah. If you're saying what the heck, I understand. There's a reason that you would be saying that. So Trump is very transactional. He just looks at this for that, right? And he's saying, like, the way that he's looking at Lukashenko is, hey, I can get these prisoners relief just by having this conversation or showing up or whatever it is that he's going to do. And he thinks that's a win. But there's two sides to every coin, right? So he's only looking on the one side of the coin, and he's not looking on the other side of the coin. And if you look at one way, that's a win. If you look at the other way, it's a disaster. And yeah, so that's where Trump is. It's a very different place.
I was listening to German member of parliament Rodrich Kaiswetter, and he said that excluding Europe and Ukraine from the Alaska talks means the end of the West as a collective alliance. Do you agree with him?
I'm not sure that we're there yet. I mean, the Europeans have okay. Trump says the first thing he's going to do after this discussion is call Zelenskyy. The next call is going to be to Europeans. So I don't think that there's an exclusion. Like if it was exclusion going on, that would be weird. But I think that Trump likes to be in the spotlight and what did he tweet out today? High stakes. Like, okay, he wants to have the spotlight on him, but I don't think he's not going to be listening to what the Europeans are doing, and he doesn't want to bear the cost. He wants the Europeans to bear the cost. So I wouldn't call it exclusion, not ongoing at least.
Okay. But, it's very hard, of course, predict what's going to happen in a month from now and what this meeting in Alaska will bring to Ukraine at first. But lots of experts and a lot of actually my colleagues in the United States, journalists, they are saying that they're quite sure what it's going to bring for sure, that we're going to see a very strong pressure from two huge countries in the world on Ukraine, the United States and Russia, more and more for concessions. Do you feel that? Do you see it that way?
So it's really such a wild card. You can't really tell which direction Trump's going to go. Like even in today's meeting, when that happens, if they stay on talking about Ukraine, it'll actually be better because they'll talk about, well, we have to get to a ceasefire. How do we get to the ceasefire? Let's get to a ceasefire. If Putin starts talking about, let's do this economic deal. Let's talk about strategic, nuclear arms talks. Let's talk about all these other things. It can wander off into places that will cause Trump to maybe relax more about what he wants to do with Ukraine as far as getting a ceasefire, which is supposed to be the goal. Look, Zelensky's been there, 155 days or so, 156 days, something like that, has agreed to a ceasefire, and Putin has not. I think we need to get back to that formula. In fact, let's get back to before even a ceasefire, give your children back. Get those Ukrainian children back in Ukraine. Like that should be the starting point. Otherwise, Vladimir, you're going to have big problems. But we're not talking like that. We ought to be doing that rather than we've been very close to, if not appeasing, and we shouldn't be doing that. That is never a formula for success.
Well, from the history, appeasing the dictator will not lead you to anything good. Yeah, and I was thinking, and I don't know whether you share this idea, but I was thinking that Trump, he just dreams to see the deal between Zelenskyy and Putin the same way as just days ago Armenia and Azerbaijan did in White House. Do you see that, or it's just not an option for Ukrainian president and Russian dictator?
From Trump's point of view, he's been wildly successful as a peace dealer, peacemaker, right? I mean, between Azerbaijan and Armenia, or between Pakistan and India, or whatever the conflict is, Thailand, you name it. But this is a lot different. This is a much more entrenched problem that it won't go away until Putin understands that this whole empire thing isn't going to work any longer. Look, if we roll back the clock, today isn't it today VJ Day, victory over Japan? If we roll back the clock, Japan was this entrenched as an enemy. The whole mentality, the culture within Japan was very warlike. But it's no longer that way. Germany, same kind of thing. Started 2 world wars, but they're not like that anymore. Russia has to be defeated in order to play nice within the world community. And as long as they've been able to get along, like the Soviet Union collapsed, but they were never in trouble with the world community as a consequence of their behavior for 70 years. And so they had the best thing for Russia is for Russia to be beaten so that they come back around and play nice with the rest of the world moving forward, if by force necessary for the first generation. But then after that, Germany and Japan are pretty civil now.
Yeah, but how the Russia can be beaten if we don't have enough support from the West?
And that's exactly right. We do need the support from the West. It's very frustrating to watch as an American, to watch what's been going on here. I'm sure you're frustrated. It's frustrating to watch Europe talk about, like, we're going to support, and then how much has come out. Like in the last couple of days, 30,000 troops from Great Britain were supposed to be part of the package. Now, not so much. Maybe we'll do some air patrols over the western side. Like, okay, like, we have to step up in a meaningful way, because this is literally the sharp, pointy, the pointy tip of the spear for freedom in Ukraine. Like, this is where the action is, and we need to be doing the right thing.
And I was reading the latest research in the United States, where it's equal, the amount of Americans quite equal who think that United States have to continue to support Ukraine, and the other part thinks that they have to stop. And actually, that's quite sounds pessimistic for Ukrainians.
Yeah. Let's unpack that a little bit, though. It's not really like that. There's not like a groundswell of, we must support Ukraine. There is an anti-Russian vibe, but it's not. So a big chunk of the country is like, yes, let's support Ukraine, because they recognize what this is. But there's also places that just don't trust Russia. And they don't really support Ukraine, but they really don't support Russia, and they don't want. But if they're backing away from it, it's more of a, it's not my problem, not that it's something that's not worthy. I don't know how to describe it better than that, but it's really, they're not anti-Ukrainian. Like only a very small fraction, the most addled by the propaganda might say, well, we can't support Ukraine, they're Nazis, or whatever they're picking up from Russian information. But most Americans, like, I drive around and I see Ukrainian flags, on a flagpole here, on a car there, on a restaurant there. I've never seen a Russian one. That's the United States.
Actually, that tells a lot.
Yeah,
I've been in the United States.
That nuance is really important. We don't trust Russia.
But still, some people trust their propaganda.
Yes, that's right. They're imbibing that propaganda from folks that they do trust, but not from Russia directly, but from secondhand from someone that Russia's feeding that to, and that's why they trust it. But we just fundamentally in our bones don't trust Russia in the U.S. That's just the majority, and you see that in the polling. So it's not anti-Ukraine, it's don't trust Russia. But why is that really our problem? Because they're getting that fed into them in the information space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, Mr. Gerdes, speaking about Asia, today a Russian dictator said to Kim Jong-un, if that may, I don't know how to, it's in Ukraine.
No, you're saying it right. Yeah.
Okay. He said to him, like, thank you for your soldiers that are fighting in Ukraine. after, I mean, the first soldier, North Korean soldier that was noted in Ukrainian captivity, it was the beginning of 2025. The number is huge, actually. Thousands of North Koreans are fighting on the Russian side. But what it gives us to understand, what it help us to understand about Russia and Russian army.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird when you have to go look for help from North Korea, right? like that's not a sign that you're tough. So, but they have what, 12,000, and they're going to about to have another 6,000 soldiers from North Korea, as I understand it, and then maybe upwards of 50,000 workers working in factories that may be part of a forthcoming deal as well. And look, I mean, the North Koreans send them as basically as slaves, and North Korea gets all the money, and they get to live and their families get to live. Like that's kind of what the deal is. So this isn't a great sign that you're strong if you have to go to North Korea. Your mom, I don't know if this translates in Ukrainian, but your mom may have said what my mom said, like, hey, don't hang out with that kid, because you know who you are, who your friends are is who you are, right? All parents give that same kind of advice. Who does Putin hang out with? North Korea, Iran, maybe Syria, China. Like Syria, I mean, not anymore. It fell apart after Assad left. But China, like look at who he's hanging out with, and that should tell you a lot about him.
Yeah, but still, those his friends, they unfortunately helping him a lot with the soldiers, with the drone shaheds,
with the artillery.
He has quite a dangerous allies.
Yes. And when will the world wake up and think, okay, there's already a world war, but it's only Ukraine on one side, and it's like North Korea and really China's technology and is Iranian technology. And like, I mean, at what point do you realize that this is really a bigger problem than what we're willing to address?
Absolutely. And going back to territorial concessions. If in any case, peace scenario, no, ceasefire is possible with the territorial concessions of Ukraine, which is not an option for Ukraine at all. What other options do we have?
I don't know. So the Russians say that there's no option for them because it's engrafted into their constitution after they stole it with the fake elections. Now, nowhere in the world do you have 90% in a democratic world. Do you have a 90% elections, like not 94% of this population or oblast, or 93% of this oblast voted for it? That just doesn't work. Authoritarian dictators are funny because they seem to think that, like, if I show them that I have 85%, no, I'll show them I have 92%. Like, look how awesome my election is. No, you look more fraudulent. You don't look more awesome. It's just a fascinating trap. And Putin spent, like, just on Putin's election, let alone the Oblast, he spent $2 billion on a rigged election. Like, does that even make any sense to you? Like, but this is how they work. So they don't think the same way that we do in the democratic West.
And I'm very worried about this scenario that Donald Trump is lifting sanctions on Russia because Russia is promising not to strike Ukraine again.
That's what they want.
And then what? And and definitely, well, I mean, I know that you know that Russia will not stop the war until Putin is alive. I don't believe in maybe we're going to have a 3 months ceasefire just because they will not attack us in the air. I don't think that something on the battlefield will stop. Well, at least I would have heard from military expert. But so if Trump is lifting sanctions on Russia, and Russia is stop attacking Ukraine, but they will restart it, rearm, and will do that again in 3 months, what are we going to do? What the West going to do?
Yeah. So sanctions are big leverage. I watch this daily. The Russian economy, just one thing after another after another. It's all like it's always bad news, and that's the leverage point. But it's not about territory. You talk about territorial concessions. It's not about territory. Anders Puck Nielsen is one of the voices that I think most strongly talks about this, and that is that the goal is not actually territory. I mean, it is territory, but it's not just territory. The goal is that Ukraine knuckles under to Russian authority or to Russian will. And that might mean taking the territory, or it could have meant if there wasn't, if Kyiv had decided, we just are happy to have you as our master, whatever you say, boss, the war, I don't think would have happened. Because go back to 2014 as well. Like if the president then had just, been able to make the deal with Russia and Maidan never happened, I don't think we'd be on the same path. But as Ukraine wants and should have the right to be independent and go their direction, whatever direction they want to go, Russia wasn't allowing that. Russia wasn't willing to bear that. And the contrast between Ukraine and Russia is going to be significant. Give it time. Wait till after the war and the diaspora returns to Ukraine with all the cross-pollinated ideas that they have from all over the world. Ukraine's going to be a force to reckon with. I wonder how many years it'll be before Ukraine's GDP will surpass Russia, or at least per capita GDP will surpass Russia. That very quickly.
Mr. Gerdes, you are so optimistic.
Oh, no, I am. No, think about this. At least as a defense contracting, they're going to be the big player in defense moving forward on the other side of the war. But just think about what happens when people come back from all over the world with all these ideas and they're trying to rebuild their country and all the deals that are being made and that sort of thing. Ukraine has a very bright future. They just have to get through this dark time.
Absolutely. I've just read that Britain's defense secretary says that the UK is ready to send troops to Ukraine from day one of ceasefire. Would such a move be a genuine deterrent of Russia, or just a political gesture? Do you actually believe that's going to happen?
I believe that the UK will do it, or believe that it'll deter Russia. Those are two different things. The only thing that'll deter Russia is NATO president or NATO joining NATO. That won't happen under Trump. It'll probably happen under the next president, right? So just again, you got to think long term here. Trump's there for another 3 years. After that, look, if George W. Bush was president, that would be different. Like it doesn't have to be a Democratic administration. I'm a Republican, right? I'm not a Trump Republican, but I'm a Republican, right? I didn't vote for Trump here. But I am a conservative, like in a Reagan kind of mold. Most people like me actually would support Ukraine because, like, why wouldn't we? Russia's the aggressor. This is a democratic country being invaded. So 3 years from now, it could be very different from NATO. If I was NATO, I'd start the process now and get everybody on board except for Orban and Trump, and then get the pressure. Orban, his election's coming up in February. I don't know that he'll make it through that without massive corruption. But NATO would be a strong guarantor. But other than that, I mean, I don't know how you guarantee. Like, Budapest Memorandum didn't really work the Brits are supporting, America has supported some. Russia was supposed to defend the border.
Yeah. And Mr. Gerdes, lots of our viewers may not know that your, passion about Ukraine started, as I found out, in 2022.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
So that's right. From your perspective, I mean, what is your impression? Of this war? Did you believe that Ukraine will hold and will be that strong for such a long time? I mean, how was your thoughts and your observation were changing after year and a year and a year of this war?
Watching the war begin, I thought, oh no, Ukraine's in trouble, right? I mean, the first days of the war, like, oh no, I see the tanks coming down toward Kyiv. And then I hear Zelensky's, I need ammunition now to ride. I'm like, wait, who, what he said, what? Like, that's pretty awesome that he was willing to take that stand. And so I teach leadership, right? This is my PhD is in organizational leadership. And so that's called sense making. That's like running a flag up the pole. Guys, rally to this. This is the way that we're going to go. He made it very clear. And then I thought there was something special about Zelenskyy. And over time, I realized, no, this is like Ukrainian. This is how Ukrainians are. And so I'm very optimistic for Ukraine. Just watching all the technology develop, watching all the way that they have adapted and overcome pretty much every challenge while they were the underdogs. And so, I'm very optimistic for you for your future.
Yeah. Mr. Gerdes, on this positive note with the air raid sirens, I have to finish because I think something is flying over Kyiv. So unfortunately, I have to finish it and round up. Thank you so much for your time. I hope that it was an honor for me, and I hope to see you again in our studio online.
Absolutely. Please stay safe. We'll talk another time.
Yeah, thank you so much.